In August 2025, the South China Sea's deceptive calm was shattered by a sudden and dramatic confrontation that would send shockwaves across the region. The Philippine government launched a high-stakes mission to Scarborough Shoal, a contested reef that has long been a flashpoint between Manila and Beijing. Their objective was simple yet urgent: deliver desperately needed supplies to Filipino fishermen who rely on these waters for their livelihoods, and to assert the Philippines' claim to the area. But, as the convoy approached the shoal, they were met by a formidable show of force. A Chinese Navy destroyer and several Coast Guard ships moved in, aggressively blocking their path and issuing stern warnings over the radio. The standoff quickly escalated. One Chinese vessel rammed a Philippine supply ship, tearing a jagged gash in its hull and sending a clear message of intimidation. The impact was violent, jarring the crew and leaving the ship crippled. It was a brazen act, witnessed by the world, and a stark warning to others who might challenge China's claims. The battered Philippine ship limped back to port, its mission incomplete, while Filipino fishermen, left stranded and vulnerable, faced an uncertain future at sea. For the world, this was a terrifying escalation, a sign that tensions at Scarborough Shoal had boiled over into open conflict, and a stark reminder of how fragile peace in the region truly is. The incident demonstrated just how quickly disputes over fishing rights and sovereignty can spiral into military confrontation, threatening the stability of the entire South China Sea. It was not an isolated event, but the culmination of years of mounting pressure, intimidation, and coercion by Beijing, as China steadily tightened its grip on the contested waters. The use of massive ships to physically block and damage a smaller vessel marked a new and dangerous level of aggression, raising fears of further escalation. The world watched anxiously, wondering if this was merely the prelude to something far more dangerous, a conflict that could draw in regional powers and reshape the balance of power at Scarborough Shoal. Scarborough Shoal, Panatag Shoal to the Philippines, Huangyandao to China, is a triangular chain of reefs and rocks, not an island. Located 124 nautical miles from Luzon, it sits within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, granting Manila rights to its resources. For generations, Filipino fishermen have relied on its rich lagoon, while China claims it as part of its sweeping 9-dash line. Control of the shoal lets Beijing project power deep into the western Pacific, forming a strategic triangle with the Paracel and Spratly Islands. The shoal's proximity to the Luzon Strait, a vital maritime choke point, gives it global significance. For the Philippines, it's about sovereignty and survival. For China, it's about dominance. The fate of this remote shoal ripples across the globe, making it a critical flashpoint for international peace and security. After the August collision, China moved quickly to tighten its grip on Scarborough Shoal. In October, a new floating barrier sealed off the lagoon, blocking Filipino fishermen from their traditional grounds. Soon after, Beijing declared a 3,500-hectare national nature reserve at the shoal, claiming environmental protection. The timing and motive were clear. This was a strategic ploy to legitimize China's presence and lay groundwork for future construction. China's history in the South China Sea is telling. Since 2013, it has built artificial islands with military bases on once submerged reefs. Mischief Reef, within the Philippines' EEZ, became China's largest outpost despite a 2016 legal ruling. The nature reserve at Scarborough Shoal is widely seen as a cover for similar expansion. Environmental research stations could easily become military facilities. The world has seen this playbook before, and knows what may come next. China's actions at Scarborough Shoal exemplify gray zone tactics, coercion and intimidation that stop short of open war. These are deliberate strategies designed to blur the line between peace and conflict, making it difficult for other nations to respond decisively without risking escalation. The floating barrier is illegal, but not an act of war. Ramming ships is dangerous but framed as law enforcement. Water cannons and blockades are justified as routine operations, allowing China to claim plausible deniability, while steadily increasing pressure on its neighbors. Each incident alone may seem minor, but together they create a new reality. China's control becomes normalized. Over time, these small provocations accumulate, shifting the status quo and making resistance seem increasingly costly and futile. Filipino fishermen are deterred, and Manila is forced into a reactive stance, unable to stop the encroachment without risking war. The livelihoods of local communities are threatened, and the government faces mounting pressure to respond, yet options remain limited. Sovereignty is eroded not with a bang, but with 1,000 small cuts. Each confrontation chips away at national authority, leaving scars that are hard to heal and setting dangerous precedents for future disputes. The August collision marked a dangerous escalation. Physical violence and risk of casualties are now on the table. What was once a contest of nerves and tactics is now a contest with real human stakes. If barriers and collisions become routine, China may feel emboldened to take the next step. The risk of miscalculation grows, and the potential for a larger crisis looms ever closer. The gray zone is a slippery slope, and at Scarborough Shoal, China is pushing the limits. Each new incident tests the resolve of the Philippines and the international community, probing for weaknesses and hesitation. The question now, what comes next, and will anyone draw a red line? Will the world accept this new normal, or will there be consequences for continued escalation? The world is watching, but China is betting it won't act. As tensions simmer, the stakes for regional stability and international law have never been higher. China's island building in the Spratlys offers a blueprint for what could happen at Scarborough Shoal. Since 2013, China has created over 3,200 acres of new land, building military bases on reefs like Fiery Cross, Subi, and Mischief. These are not outposts, they're fortified bases with missile systems, harbors, and runways. Mischief Reef, once a low-tide elevation in the Philippines' EEZ, was gradually transformed from a fisherman's shelter to a sprawling fortress. The pattern is clear: establish control, introduce a pretext like a nature reserve, start small construction, then rapidly expand. Scarborough Shoal has followed this playbook since 2012, after China seized control from the Philippines. The nature reserve could be the first step toward permanent structures. Each move is incremental, but the end game is clear: irreversible control. The world has seen this before, and the stakes are higher than ever. The Scarborough Shoal dispute is a clash between international law and raw power. In 2013, the Philippines took China to court under UNCLOS. The 2016 Hague ruling was a sweeping victory for Manila, invalidating China's 9-dash line and declaring Scarborough a traditional fishing ground for all. China rejected the ruling outright, continuing its blockade and aggressive tactics. For Beijing, historical claims and national interests trump international law. The Philippines, by contrast, champions the ruling as the foundation of its South China Sea policy. The standoff is a microcosm of a larger struggle. Will the seas be governed by law or by the will of the most powerful? The answer at Scarborough Shoal may set the precedent for the world. Fears of Chinese reclamation at Scarborough Shoal are fueled by Beijing's own words and actions. Each new statement, each maneuver in the waters, adds to a growing sense of unease among neighboring countries and the international community. Philippine officials note that Chinese state media now call it Huangyan Island, a subtle but telling shift. This change in terminology is more than semantics. It signals a deeper intent to assert sovereignty and reshape perceptions, both at home and abroad. In the South China Sea, language matters. Calling a shoal an island hints at plans to make it one. Such linguistic shifts often precede physical changes, laying the groundwork for future claims and justifying actions on the international stage. The nature reserve provides perfect cover for initial construction, perhaps a research station, then something more. Under the guise of environmental protection, infrastructure can quietly take root, paving the way for more permanent facilities. As of late 2025, Scarborough remains a collection of rocks, but the groundwork for change is being laid. Subtle modifications, barely noticeable at first, hint at a larger transformation waiting to unfold. China's slow, methodical approach tests the resolve of the Philippines and its allies. Each patrol, each diplomatic exchange, is a calculated move in a long-term strategy to alter the status quo. Incremental steps may not trigger a forceful response, but by the time the world reacts, it could be too late. The gradual buildup is designed to avoid confrontation, making it difficult for other nations to justify intervention. The warning signs are clear. Reclamation may already be in motion, hidden behind environmental rhetoric. Careful observation reveals patterns that suggest a deliberate, well-orchestrated campaign. The world must decide how to respond before the transformation is complete. The choices made now will shape the future of the South China Sea and determine whether whispers of reclamation become an irreversible reality. A militarized Chinese outpost at Scarborough Shoal would be a nightmare for the Philippines and the US. Just 120 nautical miles from Luzon, a base there would threaten Manila and key military installations. It would complete China's strategic triangle in the South China Sea, giving Beijing near-total radar and missile coverage. The base would allow rapid Chinese military deployment, complicating US operations and threatening freedom of navigation. Control of Scarborough would give China a chokehold on the Luzon Strait, a vital artery for global trade and military movement. Surveillance from the shoal would endanger US and allied submarines and ships. The environmental cost would be catastrophic. Dredging would destroy a vital marine ecosystem and devastate regional fisheries. The 2016 tribunal already condemned China's reclamation for irreparable harm in the Spratlys. Replicating this at Scarborough would have immense strategic and ecological consequences. The Philippines and its allies face a daunting challenge, asserting sovereign rights without triggering war. Manila's strategy: transparency. Every Chinese incursion is documented and publicized to rally global support. The US-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty provides deterrence, but both sides tread carefully. Manila is strengthening ties with Japan, Australia, and India, conducting joint patrols and exercises. Legal avenues remain open. New challenges could keep international pressure on Beijing. Domestically, the Philippines is modernizing its military and coast guard to better defend its waters. The goal convinced China that the cost of escalation, especially building an island at Scarborough, is too high. The future of the Indo-Pacific may depend on it.